folks who put this together is College Options Foundation in conjunction with Army JROTC. So this is a very professional event that's put together, and it is pretty heavy weather competition throughout the country and partially throughout the world as well, because there are JROTC units from all services across the world. We had folks coming in from Guam in this particular competition, and some folks from Germany. Some of the kids came in from Germany as well to compete. So it's heavy weather competition, but it also brings out the best in the kids, that's for sure. The accommodations were rough this year, really terrible. We had to stay at the Marriott Metro downtown. I know it was a hardship, but we endured. Normally we're set up at the Catholic University of America where the competition takes place, but hey, this is one of those hardships that they had to endure. Unfortunately, next year when they go back, they're going to be a little disappointed based on the fact that they're going back to a college dorm, but that's okay. So to place this a little bit of perspective, worldwide there are about 600,000 cadets in the JROTC program, and that's in all the services that are out there. So to achieve the recognition, the ability to go to nationals, you got 62 teams that are going there, and that's the academic teams. So you have the breakdown there, the 30 Army, 16 Air Force, 8 Navy, and 8 USMC. So 248 cadets total, and if you look at the total number of cadets there, and marry that up with 600,000 cadets worldwide, these kids are in the top 4% of the nation. So this is an exceptional achievement from small Fallbrook out here in, honestly, small Fallbrook in comparison to some of the schools that we went up against there. So if we take a look at some of the opportunities that we went to, sure, we had an opportunity to go out and visit the Washington Mall area. I was stationed at the Pentagon and also down at Quantico for several years, so I'm very familiar with the area, but also gave me an opportunity to take them to the Capitol, to take them throughout the National Mall, to teach them a lot of history, which I had taught them in the classroom, but now it becomes real to them. They see all the monuments. One of their favorite ones, of course, was going to Lincoln Memorial, based on the fact that, Forrest Gump is so popular with the kids. They all wanted to reenact the scene there with Jenny running across the reflecting pond. If you'll take over to my left, and it'll be to your left as well on the screen. That particular picture in the restaurant there, that is directly across from Ford's Theater. The place that John Wilkes Booth assassinated Abraham Lincoln. That wasn't the piece of fascination. It was Lincoln's Waffle House. There was the absolute quintessential important place for them to be. So again, there's some awesome bonding opportunity and opportunity for the cadets to get to know each other very, very well. As we take a look at the team itself, on the very top there is Miss Amy Ozuna. She was the team captain, and she's receiving our award there from the director of Marine Corps JROTC, Colonel Oltman. Down in the center there, you can see the team set. They are in one of their heats at that particular moment. And again, these are some pretty heavy weather. If I look in the back there, that was against Catholic University. And that is one of my colleagues who is the team teacher, or actually the coach for Catholic University there. He and I have known each other for years. And then the top right there, that is the national championship piece, in the auditorium there at Catholic University. Kind of want to provide you some pictures to give you a flavor of what occurs during this particular event while we're there. On the right-hand side, an important piece of United States Marine Corps history. There's the flag raising over Iwo Jima, based on the famous picture from Joe Rosenthal there. But to take the kids there and to let them witness the history and to see all the battles that they studied, that I've taken them through, that's the solidification. And then from there, we traveled over to Arlington Cemetery, where we looked at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, where Jane F. K. was buried, or is buried, as well as the rest of the family. So it was really, for most of them, really an opportunity to not only meet kids from all over the nation and to compete and get that confidence, but to bring back the history of the United States and bring that to them in real time, etc. So good. Okay, so what we're looking at tonight, what I have on board right now is I have Cadet Gunnery Sergeant Allen on board. He was a member of the team. I'd like to have him come up and relay to you his experiences from his competition and what it was like for him. You can hear it from my side, but again, I'd like you to hear it from the cadets. We're waiting on Cadet First Lieutenant Ozuna to show here. She's supposed to be on time, on target, but we'll go ahead and wait for that. So.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cadet Gunnery Sergeant Allen from Fallbrook Marine Corps JROTC. Just want to let you know at the time of the competition, you'll see me referenced as Staff Sergeant. I was Staff Sergeant at the time. Just before I get into talk about my experience was slightly different because I'm not actually a full-time Fallbrook High student. I'm actually from Oasis. Teacher's Mr. Kent. Awesome. But it was nice to know when we got the email that's, hey, you go into Washington, D.C. to compete. That's like several months of waiting accomplished right there. Even though only 4 of us got to go, I know the entire team from round 1 to getting that email to go to DC we were all pretty happy. We worked pretty well, even though, 2 teams from Fallbrook, we all still work together. It's just that collaboration that we don't really get in the classroom. We do now. Once you get into the working with the 1s and the 2s, the first year and second year cadets. First Lieutenant Zuna is now here. Just learned that, so she'll be here in a minute. But honestly, I know all the cadets will say the same. The best part was not just going out to eat, not going around Washington, D.C., but was working with cadets from other states. There was this really awesome team from the Air Force that we flew in with, actually, from Scripps, Ohio. They won. Congratulations, guys. But it was something else. After the competition ended, we had a night of, I think it was barbecue. They had barbecue for us. It was awesome. We hung out for about a couple hours. And that's where you meet the real cadets that aren't competing in, academics or anything. And after that, it was awesome because the night after the competition ended, we were invited from another Marine Corps team to come down to the lobby of the hotel and hang out all night. Awesome experience. You still get to learn about other cadets, what they do, what their goals are. And what we noticed is some of the goals are actually pretty common to what we have. We all want to do the same thing in life, all want to get in the same place. So that's all I have, unless there's any something.
Thank you so much. So there were 3 other students?
Yes, ma'am.
Colonel Wade, there were 3 others?
Yes, ma'am. 3 other students. We'd had Cadet Alexis Rivera. She's a captain. She's the commanding officer of the JROTC unit. We have, obviously, Connor Allen, who's standing here, and Miss Ozuna.
Right.
Okay. And we had, well, they're all here right now, and Cadet First Sergeant Sean Daly. And so part of what we want to bring back into all this is the fact that in terms of Fallbrook itself, they should be immensely proud. We have a small Title I school, and if you compare our resources and availability, and we're going up against Scripps Ranch, Air Force JROTC, I won't say the disparity is rather huge, but again, resources are significantly different. So, our claim to fame will always be that we're scrappers, we're fighters, and we're going to get there, no matter the circumstances. So, it was enlightening, and always it's great to watch the students grow while they're there, to meet other students from, we met students from rural Tennessee, from all over, the United States, and an opportunity for them to meet one another and then gain that confidence that they're in the room, with hundreds of other, really smart kids that are all college bound from all walks of life, and that they have more than one the opportunity and the right to be there with them.
Right.
So that's what.
So Colonel Wade, you're just about the most popular, hottest thing at Fallbrook Union High School District. You know that, right?
Well, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that.
But it's the truth, and it's all based on your integrity and, of course, what all the kids are learning from you. So we're very privileged to have had you for the time we've had. And I think it's great that the kids make it to that kind of a level of competition and to see the Capitol, and this is an experience they'll never forget. Yeah, so we're glad that they went and that you had a great time, and I wish that all the kids were here so we could give you all some recognition, but I, for one, just want to applaud the one student that's here. Are you
Yeah.
guys good with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Colonel Wade, thank you so much.
Oh, you're quite welcome, and thank you again for having me and allowing me to come and
Oh, yeah.
brag on the kids. It's all
I
fantastic.
I know why you're here, and
All right.
it's appreciated.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate
You
that.
bet.
Good evening.
All right, then Fallbrook's finest, and Mrs. Ilsa Garza Gonzalez is going to tell us about some teachers we're going to honor tonight.
Yeah, so Fallbrook's Finest started in the 2019-20 school year to recognize employees for going above and beyond. Every month, nominations are received and 3 employees are selected for recognition. In 2019-20, a cake would be delivered to the site of the employees recognized. Last year, we delivered Starbucks gift cards due to COVID. This year, we're starting a new tradition. Each employee recognized tonight will receive a Fallbrook's Finest t-shirt in the color of the site they work at. This month, we received 17 nominations, and we would like to thank and congratulate everyone who was nominated. I don't know if our Fallbrook's Finest are here tonight or not, but I will call your name, and if you are, if you could please come up on stage. Lydia Hahn, Jorge Rojas, and Kimsa Trong. Okay, I still want to read a little bit about them, share with you. Lydia Hahn is our lead counselor. She was nominated by her colleague Isaac Contreras for her relentless and selfless work through this trying time of schools reopening. She's been a trooper and has assisted Isaac with processes and direction as he continues to learn and evolve, Lydia has been instrumental in voicing the unique needs of our counselors and non-teaching unit personnel. She has embraced the role of lead counselor and has brought a common vision to the counseling team. Jorge Rojas is our parent liaison. Jorge is the parent liaison for Fallbrook Union High School District and was nominated by Shelley Sandoval. Jorge is always willing to help with anything, even if it falls outside of his job description. His first priority is always our students and their parents. He is a true team player and wants to see our school be successful. Jorge also serves as a soccer coach and is always looking for ways to get our students and parents involved. This year, Jorge worked tirelessly to promote our Mano a Mano parent workshops. The first meeting, held last week, had over 40 parents in attendance. And finally, our district nurse, Kimsa Trong. Nurse Kimsa was nominated by Monica Celedon. Nurse Kimsa is a Fallbrook High School graduate, and her dedication to this community is evident in everything she does. She is the perfect fit for our district and for these very difficult times. She is well organized, confident, and able to cope in potentially challenging situations. She has great leadership and management skills. Ms. Celedon stated she has yet to meet a school nurse that is as compassionate and as professional as Nurse Kimsa. With all that is going on in our health office, Nurse Kimsa manages to keep her head above the water. In the few months that she has been at Fallbrook Union High School District, she has made a difference and gets the job done while constantly finding resources to improve our services. She is always eager to help students and staff. She is empathetic, demonstrates great attention to detail, commitment, and is caring. In one word, Nurse Kimsa is amazing. And I'd like to mention those that were nominated. Germán Mosqueda, paraprofessional and now our supervisor of attendance. Alma Toledo, custodian. Jackie Resendiz, administrative assistant in Ed Services. Patty Janelle, HR specialist. Cesar Rodriguez, Spanish teacher. Esmeralda Hernandez, AP secretary. Shannon Charles, English teacher. Marina Skenzik, English teacher. Debbie Berg, math teacher. Joanna Villacorta from Food Services. Yunette Hernandez, Ivy High School clerk, Kelly Walker, Ivy High School social science teacher, and the entire counseling team. Thank you.
All right. Congratulations to those staff members who got that honor. That brings us to our presentation. TOSA teacher, Mr. Omar Mura.
Hello, good evening all. Thanks for letting me come. Talk to you guys about my position. MTSS is a multi-tiered support system of support for students. Basically, I have a couple things listed here as the main things that I'll be doing. Restorative practices is one of the main things. Creating a manual. Basically, this manual is going to be something that helps teachers, any staff, admin, to support our students in maybe behavioral needs, academic needs, social and emotional needs. This MTSS role is new to the title. The title is new to Fallbrook, new to me, I think new to all of you. But this is something that's been in the works actually for like at least 9 or 10 years. When I first came here to teach long-term, as a long-term sub, you guys may recall the names of Adam Dawson and Nicole Miller. They created this, or they didn't create it, but they were starting this RTI training for teachers, which is response to intervention. Although the name is different, what MTSS is basically a more organized fashion of doing the RTI model. And it's also not encompassing everything as one. It's more trying to individualize not only what a student needs, but in the category of behavioral, academic, social, emotional. This document is going to take a long period of time to create, right, for it to be accurate and for Fallbrook High School and for its students. And so I kind of wanted to let you guys know about what I've been doing so far while I'm trying to gather data, culture, understand what's going on, and trying to get to know my students. So here's an example before I go into my story, though, of what I've done so far.
Can you tell me, please, what RTI model is?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's
RTI,
okay.
it's response to intervention is the RTI, and basically what was going on is it was so long ago, I recall that I can only give you a reference of what I remember. I still have the manual at home. I could study it if you'd like. But basically, it was a response to try and help students that are no longer following their path to success. Like they're kind of falling by the wayside a little bit when they need more supports. And so we were basically trying to support them. What was first thought as a disciplinary measure, but it really wasn't for that. It was for trying to find ways to get them back on track to reach the success that each individual student wanted. But the model wasn't really individualized in that way, and that's what the MTSS role is there for, is to try and individualize it more, make it a little bit more custom, or give a little bit easier access for people that are trying to support students to have that access with this resource, this manual. So for the past few weeks, oh, by the way, this is just an example of the tiers of support, right? Tier 1, recognizing and being aware of individual student needs. We're hoping that that can be done at a teacher level. This eventually will be something that I'm hoping to help teachers be aware and recognize and do what I'm trying to do, which I'm going to go further into later. The tier 2 would be like counseling. This is something just off of a sample that I would do to create the simplified version of what I'm thinking the manual will be. The manual will be much more detailed than this. And then tier 3 would be more of like individualized classes, schedule reform, maybe a behavioral, what do you call it? Behavioral, I know it's behavioral plan, but I forgot. I think it's a behavioral intervention plan. That's what a BIP is. And then IEP, of course, is individualized education plan, etc. Right? Those are tier 3, high tier things that they need. That doesn't mean the student's worse. It just means that there's more people that need to be involved, right, to help the student get more support. And this also doesn't mean that if they're at a tier 3, that they aren't going to get the supports from tier 2 and 1. It just means that when we get to a certain level or reach the criteria for this level in the manual, that we start pulling out these tiers of support to try and be proactive and basically face something before it reaches a further tier if possible. But I'm going to go into my stories because a couple stories that I have of what I've been doing so far. I know this manual is going to take a long time to develop. But what I've been doing so far is I've been observing a lot of classes, and if you don't mind, I'm going to take out my cards to remember what numbers I had written down here. So I have at least, in the last 5 weeks, I've at least visited I've had 10 classroom visits. I've met with at least 20 teachers on an individual basis to talk to them about their students, get some idea of what's going on, maybe commonalities are going on between teachers and things to help support students. I've also had private meetings with students and group meetings with at least 5 students to help advocate for them to try and get them back on track. And these have happened in a couple of ways. So my role, I'll explain a little bit with my story, is that really what I'm focusing on is trying to create more opportunities for the student to get the support they need, know the support they have. And that's really what my role, I think, is for right now, especially when I'm building this document, is to try and create more opportunity for them not to fall through the cracks and be preventative if I can. So I've been observing classes, and I'm going to say the name is Mr. Crumpet, the person I went in to visit. And Mr. Crumpet brought up to my attention that he has a lot of disruption in his class. And this was the 3rd week of school. And I went in there, and he said, come in whenever you can. I don't mind when you come in. I went into the classroom, and I can already feel there was tension in the classroom. And I just started looking at the students, tried to ask them individually, quietly, because everybody was silent, just writing diligently on paper. What are you guys doing? What's going on? And I could see their writing, and I would just use what they've written as openings for conversation to get to know them. And so the questions that they were being asked were really well thought out debate questions, something that someone can have an opinion of and basically grow intellectually from hearing both sides of this question that could be debated. And so after a few minutes, I sit down after I've talked to a few students in still a quiet room and they're writing. Mr. Crumpet stands up and basically kind of gives a little bit of a lecture trying to get them to reflect on why the activity that I didn't get to see turned into what it turned into, right? Everybody writing on a piece of paper. And for me, I was watching, there wasn't a response, and for me, the goal, I know he wants them to reflect, but at the same point, I wanted the students to see a bigger goal, and I raised my hand. And I said, guys, I have a question for you. And I asked them, have you guys ever turned in work that you really wanted to be appreciated? Work that you put effort into and you wanted your teacher to know you through your work? And most everybody raised their hand. And I was honest with them. I said, thank you for being honest with me. I want to be honest with you. I have 120 to 150 students that I have to grade. And to be honest with you, I appreciate every one of you, the ones that I have, and I appreciate you all, even though I don't have some of you. But I'll be honest, I don't get to appreciate the work that you guys do most of the time because after the first 30, 40, 50 papers of grading, I've written little notes and time's going by and I'm running out of time. And I'm like, take this opportunity, for instance, if I come to understand correctly, Mr. Crumpet made it so you guys would be on both sides of the classroom taking turns voicing your opinions to these questions you're writing about, correct? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I'm on real time. Mr. Crumpet, I'm sure, would have been able to appreciate whatever you say, and whatever he says to you, you guys would be able to appreciate as well, because he's listening to you, making eye contact with you, getting to know you, right? And so the kids kind of nod, and they're still in silence listening. And I tell them, wouldn't that be much better than writing down on a piece of paper the rest of the period and writing all these words? And let's be honest, do you guys think he's going to read every single one of your papers? And they all said no. And I'm like, and it's okay to be open. It's the truth. It would be very difficult and demanding for a teacher to read. He's probably going to look at it for completion, right? And so they agreed with me, and I said, look, next time, I want you guys to try taking this opportunity. Take the opportunity your teachers do for a lesson, because this opportunity was an opportunity for you to be appreciated for your work. And your work doesn't have to be on paper. It doesn't have to be with pencil. It can be with your voice. And then I'll get to know you better. He'll get to know you better. I think the relationships will get much better, and it'll help the classroom culture. What do you guys think? And they kind of didn't say anything, but they kind of smiled and nodded a little bit. And I said, next time, let's take the opportunity. Someone's telling a joke. I'm sure Mr. Crumpet knows there's times for jokes, but just, even if you don't know your buddy, just tell him, hey, just hold on a second. Just wait. Someone's talking. Let them talk, and then tell me in a second. And then that's it. And then you guys can go on telling the joke whenever there's a moment in time. Well, but let's try and take this opportunity next time we get it. And I don't know if it was timing or what, but the bell had rung right after I had said that. And they all left, and it felt more of like a positive light, like the next time we'll be able to take this opportunity. So I restored, I guess, what tension could have led into other days. And ever since that day, not that it's been perfect, but that disruption, the major disruptions that occurred in Mr. Crumpet's class have not occurred. And it's been 2 weeks so far, 2.5 weeks actually. And so it made a positive impact. And I think that's what my role is my role is to try and look at the bigger picture, have the kids take a perspective, and realize that the greater, I think, thing about this is to build a positive relationship. And if you want school to be enjoyable, give each other what each other wants. Give each other appreciation, give each other the time, give each other respect, and it'll happen. And it'll be more enjoyable. Mr. Crumpet was appreciative, of course, and I kept checking in with him just to make sure things were going well. That's why I can tell you they've gone better than they did before, you know. And as I'm doing my role, I'm learning and practicing to recognize and value the diverse characteristics of all the students, you know. And it's a lot to take in, and that's what I'm trying to do as much as possible. I mean, I have 2 hours, like, to do this position, so I'm trying to run around. I'm getting my exercise. I mean, I'm used to it anyway. I do a lot of soccer. But it's such a positive role, I think, that students need. I had another story, if it's possible, with the time. I don't know if I have a real limit, but basically, my goal is that I want to understand the students and how to come about getting them to understand, you know, the relationship between teacher to student a little better. And I want to create lessons and things that I can use to support teachers in building their lessons and what they can do when certain situations come up and whatever. Like, I want the manual to have those kinds of details. I mean, not specific to make it, you know, rigid, but I mean to a point where it's a little bit open to say, hey, maybe take this opportunity to do, you know, I don't know, X, Y, Z, to try and maybe not focus so much on do your work, but why are these things going on? Let's just get to the bottom of this really quick so we can both understand where each other's coming from. And where each other's coming from brings up my next story. So I had Nathan, an individual student that I was meeting with. That was my class visit, and then I had another individual. And I've had several individual students that I've met with. Now Nathan, obviously that's not his name, but Nathan, he was coming into 2 classrooms, very frustrated, outwardly defiant, and would have major issues with particular teachers. And I didn't understand why. And there's always a lot of information going on I didn't know. But I still wanted to meet with him because I ended up getting emailed by his teacher that I needed to, if I could, help. And so I spoke to Nathan, and I was trying to see what's going on, if he would allow me, you know, to see what's happening that would have him be this way. So after a week and a half of meeting with him, checking in with him, asking him just to try to be a little bit more positive about school and respectful and be patient, you know, with what's being done, he finally opened and said, I work 20 to 25 hours a week. He's like, on the weekend. I'm sorry, it's the weekend. Every one of my weekends are taken away from me. And I asked him why he can't choose not to do it. And his situation is one of those ones where he can not choose not to do it in a way. And so I realized that these teachers, although, you know, they're trying to work with him, they have they're requiring things of him, right, to do, and they're telling him what to do, but he's sick of being told what to do. So this personality struck a chord with what he gets on the weekend. It's not that it was the teacher, it wasn't personal. It just it struck the chord that he deals with every weekend where he gets his free time taken away. And so that's why he was reacting so. And teachers had no idea, admin had no idea. I was the only one that knew. The student, fortunately enough, opened up to me and let me know. So once I let him know that you should try and trust a little bit and let them know what's going on, you know, I mean, I know they don't know what's going on, but if you don't, a little bit of information, it'll help mend what's going on. And so it was last Monday when he said, I'm just going to go in there and I'm just going to do what I want to do, or I need to do, and I'm just going to not, you know, I'm going to try not to engage because I know I don't know if I'll be able to get along with him. And I'm like, okay, just do that, just focus on that, you know, whatever. He hasn't been referred or sent out of class. And this person has been sent out of class more than 4 times already this year. And so he's doing what he needs to do, but he needed someone to advocate for him to try and understand where he's coming from. And some teachers will be able to do this, you know, and I want it to be a cultural thing where we are able to just openly, if you feel like you can have a connection with teachers. Obviously, everybody gets to choose who they'd like to connect with, but oftentimes, and I don't know if this is going to be okay, but as I was speaking about my role, I want to recognize the values of students, but I want the teachers to also take that opportunity to have that in their subconscious to try and recognize what's going on. Because there is information out there that's telling us that there's something students need to support, but I don't know if we all look for those yet. It's not something that's being established all the way yet here, and I want that to happen. So I don't know if we can play this, but if we can, that would be great. Can I do it myself, or does somebody click this?
No, I believe it's copyright is the reason why we can't play it.
It's okay. So that's totally fine. It was a 30-second clip. Basically, it's the movie Cars. And it's when Lightning McQueen is passing by the police officer, and the police officer chases him down, and he thinks Lightning McQueen's like the student, and he thinks, oh, maybe I can get some help. And then all of a sudden, the police car starts misfiring, and he thinks he's getting shot at, so he thinks he's been basically somehow profiled as some bad student or bad thing or bad person, and he's driving all crazy, and the police starts to think he's crazy and whatever, but it creates this whole convoluted mess of just distractions and disasters. And I kind of wanted to bring it up because it seems like that it never gets, hopefully not that bad. You don't destroy a whole town, right? But it ends up becoming something convoluted that we don't know what it really is about, in the teacher-student relationship. And we don't want it to be like that. It hasn't been like that, I don't think, this year. But I don't ever want it to be something like that. But the bottom line of the video was that there's a misconception of what each other needs. And they don't ever figure it out until something disastrous happens, And I'm trying to avoid that by hopefully my position being able to create that tiers of support, visiting with students, getting them to realize that they can talk to teachers, or if they don't, and even more specific, tell them, just pick somebody. Just pick somebody. Pick somebody to trust if you can at this school. Pick somebody. They don't have to be your teacher, but pick somebody. We all want to support you. We all want to help you. It doesn't matter, who or how you are. We just want to help you in some way to become successful. So the other few things that are my role, and these are the last things I'd like to say, is that I'd like to be, and I'm hoping to be the lead in kind of improving the culture and helping teachers in the classroom understand what we kind of need to do to recognize when things are going astray a little bit, so we can get them in those tier 1 supports if we can. The supports that are available that they might not know are available, to help them not get frustrated because they can't understand the material, can't do the material, that they need other resources at hand so they can actually be successful. I'm hoping to be able to help my colleagues in understanding and finding ways and resources to basically accomplish reaching every one of their students if they can. I want to advocate, of course, for their positive student-teacher relationships, and I'm hoping to guide teachers through this document that I'm going to put all my effort into to help make things easier for relationships and for positive behavior and for success for all of our students. I believe that's about it. There was another story, but that's okay. I know I've told enough stories. All right, but thank you very much for all the time you guys have given me.
Hey, thank you for you. It seems to me like you're really putting your heart and soul into this, and very appreciated. And I, for one, really enjoyed your stories, and thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you all very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow. As Mr. Murrow stated, he is a teacher on special assignment for 2 periods out of the day for the multi-tiered systems of support. And just to provide a little bit more background for the board, since he did mention response to intervention. Response to intervention was presented as a triangle where the biggest bulk, tier 1, were the academic interventions that were in place that 80 to 90% of students needed. So it was the basic curriculum. From there, tier 2, it's for about that other 10 to 15% of the student population that needs a little bit more support. And then tier 3 is only for about 5% of your population. In 2000, about 2013 in California, it happened earlier in the East Coast, that triangle was split in half to include behavioral supports, which were commonly known as PBIS, or Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. And then in around 2017, the triangle finally became a pyramid, where one side were the academic interventions, the other side were the behavioral interventions, and the last side were the social emotional interventions. And that is what is commonly known as the multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS. And like he said, it will take him a while to finish that manual, considering that he only has 2 hours a day to dedicate to that. Before we move on to our next presentation, Madam President, I would like to invite Cadet Asuna to the
Oh, I
podium
see she
to
showed
finish
up.
the ROTC presentation.
Very nice. Come on up. I'm glad you made it. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I'm Cadet First Lieutenant Amy Ozuna in the MCJRTC program offered at Fallbrook High. I am a senior there too. So in my sophomore year of high school, that was when I first joined the MCJRTC program, and I was invited to be a part of JLab, which is this junior leadership academic pool. And basically what we do there is, it's just like an academic team. We answer all these questions involving math, science, English, literature, etc., etc. Pretty challenging most of the time, since these are like SAT level questions. So it's really honorable to be a part of it. And a year later, our hard work finally paid off, and we were privileged enough to advance to the national competition located in Washington, D.C. Out of the 4,000 JROTC teams across the country, we were part of the 104, which means we were in the top 3%. Finding out this news was pretty much the highlight of my school year, considering I spent most of it on a computer. And telling my parents was also one of the best parts, since the trip was being paid for and being paid for completely, including the flight. And so personally, this was my first time ever flying on a plane. So it was a really great opportunity. Like, the layovers were also exciting, since the furthest I've ever been was Oklahoma. So the layover in Nashville, Tennessee just brought out like a sense of adventure in me, since I've never been in the South like that. Arriving at the airport in DC was a little intimidating, I won't lie, since this is my first time ever flying, my first time in the airport, first time in the East Coast, but I felt a sort of comfortness taking the metro back, since it sort of eased my concerns just being on my little train and seeing all of the nation's capital. When we arrived at this amazing 4-star hotel, which was also paid for, shared a room with one of the best people I've ever met in this program, and it just, walking into the hotel itself just gave me a sense of comfort, to be quite frank. Being surrounded by other people who were focused on their academics and other ROTC programs, not including just the Marine Corps, but the Navy and the Army and etc. And high school students just like myself, it just really empowered me. Like, there's actually people who have the same passions as myself. And some highlights of the trip would be our first day of sightseeing. We had breakfast at one of the best places I've ever been to, Lincoln's Waffle House, which happens to be located next to Ford's Theater, ironically. And the experiences we faced together at the restaurant were indescribable. All I can say is, if you're ever in Washington, D.C., and you're looking for a great way to start your day, I would heavily recommend having breakfast there. Seeing the Washington Monument, the White House, Capitol Hill, Lincoln Memorial, and the Arlington National Cemetery sparked this patriotism for this country within me. Already being in the ROTC program, I get the sense of pride for my country to begin with, which I don't necessarily experience a lot at home. So being in the program really makes me feel proud of this country. And just going to that trip just fueled this sense of prideness, and I just am so admirable to all the people that have fought and served for us to still be here. What caught my attention the most walking around the nation's capital was the American Indian Museum. Being a Native American myself, specifically from the Paula Band Mission Indians and the Southern Cheyenne tribe located in Oklahoma, it just felt so welcoming to see my people being represented in the nation's capital. And when we arrived at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, we saw Chief Plentycoup's headdress being displayed, which he gave off as like a, not necessarily a gift, but just a token of respect to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier that was buried there. And after hearing that Native American was one of the flag raisers commemorated at the Iwo Jima Memorial, this brought another sense of inclusivity. And coming from a family of Native veterans, my grandpa served in Desert Storm, my uncle served in Iraq, my grandma was in the Marine Corps. It's just so fueling and proud to say that my ancestors sacrificed and protected along our heroic soldiers. The actual competition was taking place at the Catholic University of America, which was a breathtaking campus with beautiful landscaping and historical buildings that were pleasing just to the eye. Sorry. One of our first days of competition was a little nerve-wracking, as I won't lie once more. I was a little intimidated by the other team's capabilities, but also nervous for how difficult the questions were going to be because I know they weren't as similar to the ones we've taken before. However, during our first match, all the jitters ceased to exist when I saw how confident and my team was with answering the questions diligently. Working together as a unit only boosted my confidence with our own capabilities, as if I didn't know the answer to a question, I knew the person on my left or the person on my right did. We all offered valuable necessities when it came to our matches, whether it be myself with history, Gailey with science and mythology, Alan with all-around ROTC knowledge, Rivera with literature, and even our former team captain supporting us from behind with our instructor, Lieutenant Colonel Wade. The experiences we faced together as MCJRTC cadets is something that I'm proud to look back on, as not only was this a bonding experience with some of the best people I've ever met, it just shows how this program has been extremely beneficial to all of us. I'm proud to call myself an MCJRTC cadet at Fallbrook, and I'm even prouder to admit that I can call this program my family. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. It is, yeah. I agree with you. He's the captain of the team. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
You know, it's totally obvious that you're the captain of the team. And I'd be so proud of that if I were you. And your heritage is just proving you to be a wonderful, wonderful young lady. And we're so proud to have you here at Fallbrook.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. We will persevere. So that brings us to Miss Toon, right?
Yes, Ms. Toon,
Uh-huh.
Director of Curriculum, and
Uh-huh.
Mr. Virgilio Mayo, Teacher on Special Assignment for English Language Learners.
Okay, I see Miss Toon first. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Garza Gonzalez and President Summers. That's a really tough act to follow, so I'll do my best. I have a lot of data to show you, so I don't think it's going to be nearly as exciting, but I do have some really good information to share. One of the requirements of us receiving Title III funds is also to do an annual English Learner Program overview. And I know that Trustee Oscar Caralampio asked for some information about the bilingual resources we have at the district and at the school. So this seemed like a perfect opportunity to mesh those two things together. So I do have quite a bit of data. So I do have a video to start with. And let me make sure I can figure out how to do the clicker. There we go. This video was pre-pandemic because obviously the access we had to our students the last 2 years or so has been a little bit different. But this is outlining a little bit, it's a 2-minute clip and it's 8 minutes long. If you want to see the whole thing, you can watch it at another time. But it kind of outlines what life is like for a Fallbrook High School student, follows them on their way to the bus, onto the bus. It asks them, when did you come to the U.S.? Many of them can remember the exact date because it was a momentous moment for them. It's a little hard to hear the students speaking, that's why I'm giving you a little overview in advance. There's also a question that the students answer, which says, do you want to go to college? And so a lot of them share, yes, absolutely, and then the colleges they want to go to, Santa Barbara, etc. So I'll play that for you.
I'm thinking it's a sign that the freckles in our eyes are mirror images, and when we kiss, they're perfectly aligned. I have to speculate that God Himself did make us.
From Mexico. My mom's from Oaxaca. My dad's from Michoacan. I born on Leon, Guanajuato.
Okay, I'm from Mexico and I'm born in Guanajuato.
California, but my parents were born in Mexico.
I am from Guatemala. I was born in Guatemala City.
Scan the radio. I hope this song will guide you. They will see us waiting from such late heights.
Here from California, Fallbrook, California. And I was born here.
Born here.
Almost 4 years ago.
This on August 21, 2006. United States 4 years ago on September 10th, 2010.
United States in 2010.
Frankly, will not fly. You will hear the shrillest highs and lowest lows with the windows down.
College, and my dream college would probably be Santa Barbara.
I don't know where yet.
Of course, I want to go to college.
So there's quite a bit more. We ask the students, their greatest challenges, their greatest successes. So it is neat to watch. The audio is not that great, so we had some students from a variety of different places, Oaxaca, Guatemala, some who were born here. And so I'll go over some of that information as we go. The reason I show you the video is because I'm going to show you a lot of data, and it's easy to get lost in numbers. And it's just to emphasize that when we look at these numbers, each one of these students that adds to these percentages is a whole life. And so it's just to ground us in the fact that, every single one of our students is important, and we want to make sure that they're successful. So we'll start with the population data, and I'm not going to go over it in great detail, but you can see 2021-22 there on the right. In yellow, EO and FEP stands for English Only Students or Fluent English Proficient Students. So these are students who were never part of the EL program. In red are RFEPs. Those are our redesignated as Fluent English Proficient Students, and so they've met a series of rigorous requirements, including language assessment and academic requirements in order to redesignate. And then there at the bottom in blue, 379 district-wide are our English language learners, our ELLs. Breaking this out across our 3 schools, on the far left you see the same colors at our district level. Majority of our English learners are at Fallbrook High School. We have 21 at Ivy, and we have 3 at Oasis. Including our RFEPs, and the state does include RFEPs as part of our EVER EL population. It's approximately getting close to half of our student population who were at one time English language learners. Now, our English language learner population is incredibly diverse. So students that are part of that population, I have them in 2 categories here, but these definitely do not define what we experience in the amount of experiences that our students bring to our campuses. In red, those are our long-term English learners, and those are defined as students who have been in the English Learner Program or in the U.S. for 6 years or more. In blue are the true English learners who have been in the English Learner Program for 5 years or less. And this is a really interesting piece of data and information, and I'm going to pair it with some additional data coming up here, but just to show that our population of English learners has some very different needs. So the needs of the students in red are definitely different than the needs of the students there in blue. These are broken out by grade level. You can see the spike after the pandemic of the number of English learners. We had less redesignation and we had not as much participation in our LPAC testing, especially in 2019 and 20. We were halfway through our testing when we shut down the schools. You can see that there are some different things that come into this. Most of our long-term English learners, you can see that's that blue line there, are 9th graders. So we do inherit quite a few of those, and then as the years go by, you can see that those numbers begin to decrease because as time goes by, we're able to redesignate some of those students. Now, this information paired with our long-term English learner data is very interesting and important. So if you take our English learners and then you look at the demographics by birth country, 52% of our English learners were born here in the US. And they are English learners because there is a family member at home who speaks a language other than English. Our second greatest portion of our population are coming to us from Guatemala, and then 8.7% coming to us from Mexico. This is our redesignation data. Our English learners, in order to be classified as fluent English proficient, have some rigorous requirements. The first is that they have to get the highest level possible on the LPAC, which is the language assessment for the state of California, and that's a 4. They cannot even be considered until they have received a 4. And you'll see in 2018 and 19, that's when the state did change their requirements. So prior to 2018-19, we would look at students who had a 3 for potential redesignation if they were being successful in their classes. Paired with the change in requirements and then the pandemic and the lesser participation in our LPAC, you can see that those numbers have decreased, and we have not done our redesignation yet for 2021-22. That is the first requirement. The second requirement is that they demonstrate proficiency in our state assessments, the SBAC and ELA, which is also a heavy lift for all of our students, not just for our English learners. So in order to redesignate, they must minimally meet those 2 requirements, and then we look at teacher recommendation and we look at parent recommendation. This is our LPAC growth data. So if a student went up a level on the language assessment, which is our LPAC, it was the CELT prior to the LPAC, you can see that we have seen growth in the last 2 years, but I will caution that 2019-20 data is a little bit skewed because it is percentage, but we did not have high participation rates. In 2020-21, we did have much better participation, so that 2020-2021 data is a little bit more reliable. If we look at the growth of our students in the LPAC by our true English learners and our long-term English learners, the long-term English learners are there in red, and our true ELs are there in blue. If a long-term English learner gets a 4 on the LPAC for 2 years in a row, they count as demonstrating growth because they've achieved the highest level that they can get on the assessment. If they have not redesignated, it is usually because they have not demonstrated proficiency on the SBAC in ELA. So again, looking at the trajectory, knowing that the CELT changed to the LPAC there in 2017-2018. The bottom line in blue is for our long-term English learners who are attaining the highest possible levels, either a 4 or 5 on the CELT or a 4 on the LPAC. In red above is to give you some context, because as I said before, until the state changed their requirements, we did look at students who had a 3 or higher. And so you can see that that percentage jumps up when we look at students who are at the reasonable proficiency level. If we look at just our true English learner population, 5 years or less, same information. The bottom line in blue are students who are getting the highest level on the LPAC. And in red, it is if they are getting a 3 or a 4 on the LPAC. A little more information in our language census. So when we pull the home language and reporting language from all of our students, you can see that 49.8% of our students are reporting Spanish as their home language. We have a very small percentage there in the corner in Canjobal, and this is in part because many of our Guatemalan students are learning Spanish at school, and when they are self-declaring their home language, they are self-declaring Spanish on their home language survey. In red, you'll see that's our English-speaking population, 47.5%. And the correspondence language is what the family has chosen in regards to how they receive communication. So you do see that it shifts a little bit because sometimes you do have family members who speak Spanish in the home but are also able to speak English and prefer to get their communication in English. So 44% of the population requests to have correspondence in Spanish and 54% request to have it in English. And on that note, here are some of the bilingual services that we have at the district. This is an extensive document, and I've taken some clips out of it, but we do have bilingual office staff. And so in each of our offices, we do have staff members who are bilingual who can support our Spanish-speaking parents. Our registrar, our front office, our AP office, our counseling office, attendance office, and our IT office. We also have bilingual counselors. All of our counselors are bilingual and are a huge support, especially in our College and Career Center and in our presentations at our ELAC meetings. We also have bilingual paraprofessionals who are placed in classes with our English language learners who are at the lower proficiency levels in ELD 1 and ELD 2. We have a few open positions that are being subbed right now, but we have the list of our paras there on the left. We also have a language assessment coordinator, Ms. Laura Rojas, and our district parent liaison, Mr. Jorge Rojas, and he was our employee of the month this month, and he was not able to be here because, and he's the one texting me right now, he is working mano a mano with our parents and just let me know that we have 49 parents there participating this evening, yes, and 13 students who are receiving childcare. What we have posted on the district website, and there's a lot of information here, but it's just to give you a little bit of an overview. We do have a program guide, and it's in English and Spanish to help guide our parents in regards to what we offer for our English Learner program. On the right, you'll see that this is a guidance document for class placement. We have high levels of expectations for all of our students, and so even students who are coming in at the beginning proficiency levels of English, we set them up with a guidance schedule to be A through G so they get their graduation requirements as well as being potentially prepared for college. Just some of the key supports that our students are receiving in ELD 1 and ELD 2. They are participating in academic content courses where they're strategically placed. 1/3 of the class are English learners, and then 2/3 of the class are redesignated as fluent, or they are native English speakers. And in those classes, we place bilingual paraprofessionals. Additionally, if it's an ELD 1 or ELD 2 student and it works with their schedule, they are paired with their English teacher so that their teacher has a very good understanding of what their needs are, has a relationship established with the student, and then when they're in a content class with their native English speaking peers, their needs are being met and their teachers are a little bit more aware of what they need. At ELD 3 and ELD 4, we have, and he's with me this evening, Mr. Virgilio Mayo. You can come on up because you'll be next. He is our English learner teacher on special assignment, and his role for our ELD 3 and 4 students, because they've reached reasonable proficiency, is to support those students as kind of a parent on campus, talking to the teachers, talking to the students, supporting them. At the very bottom, you'll see that we have ELD standards, professional learning that we're providing to all of our new teachers this year. And if we go back 2 or 3 years, we at one point in time had 100% of our teachers trained. So we do have some new teachers who've come over the past 2 years, and we're going to work on getting them all caught up. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mayo.
Thank you, Ms. Toon.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to speak about my position as the ELD TOSA. I've been in this position for 4 years now. This is my 4th year. And that role has changed, or evolved rather, over the last 4 years based on the different needs that have come up or the different challenges that have come up. But I'll try to give you a good picture of what I do in supporting students and teachers in the ELD program. So most importantly, in ELD 3 and 4, I monitor the progress towards graduation of ELD 3 and 4 students. Those are the 2 sections that I teach as well. So I get familiar with them, comfortable with them, understand their needs, understand what they struggle with, and also make sure that they are placed in the correct classes that will keep them on pace for graduation, and also understand when they are struggling in a course and provide interventions for both them and the teacher in order to ensure that those students have success and don't fall any further behind. The past 6 weeks, a majority of my time has been spent making sure that students are placed correctly. And as Ms. Toon explained, ELD 1 and 2 students receive bilingual supports and are placed in backfilled classes. And the placement of those students in their ELD class is extremely important to ensure that they get those supports. So also, in the spring, after students have put in their course requests, I've, over the last 2 years, because of the situation, I've gone through each and every student to ensure that they're, each and every ELD student rather, to ensure that they're in the right English classes, social studies classes, science classes, and most importantly, ELD classes, to make sure that they're, also math, but to make sure that they're on track, in the right place, and they're not falling any further behind. Tedious process, but it was made this fall a little easier. Also part of my responsibility is to assign, adjust, and manage the paraprofessional placement and their schedule, which this year has been a little bit more of a challenge because we have a lot more ELD sections, and some of our staff have, there's been a little turnover there. Coming up in the near future, which I've also done in the past, is to hire, train, and assign tutors to ELD classes. In our ELD classes, similar to AVID, we run tutorials twice a week, and we haven't done so over the last year because of the pandemic, but we'll be bringing that back. These are language-driven tutorials with students bringing their struggles or any challenge that they have in their coursework, so they're receiving academic support for their other classes as well as language-driven support. We bring in college students mostly to run those tutorials. Also, hasn't been done over the last year because of the pandemic is conduct observations of ELD 3 and 4 students in their content area classes. Not as a criticism, but just to understand the situation of an ELD student and how they're participating in their class in order to better adjust my lesson plans. And most obvious or always at the forefront is self-advocacy, which ELD students struggle to do because of confidence issues, because of fear of the language barrier. And in ELD 3 and 4, we, in the first couple of months and weeks of school, we focus on advocating for yourself. Also, part of my role is to gather assessment data from designated ELD teachers. In our designated ELD classes, we have common assessments that we use to help place students and also to monitor progress. This is in addition to the LPAC, which students take in the spring, but we have our own developed and also new assessments that we're implementing in order to monitor progress. Also, I meet bi-weekly and correspond regularly with Ms. Toon, the ELD coordinator, to help adjust or, improve our program in any situation we can. The way my role is designed to impact students is first and foremost to create a sense of community among ELD students. Many of our students are arriving to a new country, a new city, are adapting to a different type of school life, and on top of all that, balancing a new language and all these content courses that they're taking. So that sense of community in the first year is extremely important. And in the past, we've had a lunch buddy program where we have elder ELD 4 students, the students that have been here for a little while, with our newcomers, having a lunch with a person that understands what it's like to be at Fallbrook and how to succeed at Fallbrook, in order to create that community and also have someone that you see on campus you can talk to. During our lunch program, Mr. Rojas, who's been spoken highly of already many times tonight, developed a soccer tournament, which was of extreme success. It involved our ELD students, which they loved it, and also a lot of our other general population students as well. And he hopes to bring it back from what I've talked to him. We also have had something after school in the Warrior Way, which is also tied with academics and the love of soccer, and we both hope to bring that back as well. Also, my role to help impact students is conference regularly with the students in regards to their attendance, discipline, and any grades. I joke as in my role as being either a guidance counselor or a big brother, but it has allowed me to build and develop relationships with the students that way. And something that is upcoming, which we've done in the past, is we have during the PSAT for our newcomers who will not be testing on that day, have a character building day and a college and career day. We had counselors speak to them about A through G requirements, our bilingual counselors, graduation requirements. We had some of our bilingual paraprofessionals that were former ELD students speak about their personal experience and what they did to be successful. Extremely successful. One of those speakers has gone on to a doctor's program, and thus we have a vacancy now because of that. But she's one of our stars from the program. And the last one is a character building and community building activities that they've done. And in some of those pictures, you see those. Part of my role also is to inform students on the resources and supports available to them, not only the bilingual paraprofessionals, but the Parent Welcome Center, our bilingual counselors, our bilingual staff that are in the attendance office, and other people that they can lean on for any advice or issues that come up. Regularly discussing graduation requirements and college admission process has also been incorporated into my ELD 3 and 4 class. Students have done projects where they research out a career and understand the path that they need and the value in a college education, whether it be vocational or associate's degree or their bachelor's degree. They understand the different paths that they can take and choose. We've led our ELD 4 students to Palomar College, where they're able to take an assessment that would have them understand what placement they would be in for their English and math classes. They toured the campus, and they visited several departments on the campus that they were interested in, and got insight into what Palomar College was like. Many of the students had never been on a college campus or understood what a college campus was about, and it opened a lot of eyes to them and allowed them to create connections with some of the ELD coordinators there at the campus so that they had that communication line open. As I already stated, teaching and encouraging students to advocate for themselves is a big part of what I do. And it is a challenge at times, but definitely most rewarding part of my job to see them step up and open the door and able to speak for themselves. Also, providing academic support to content area classes is something I do as well, whether it be opening up my classroom during lunch and helping students understand the instructions of their assignment, or in the morning, or communicating or being the communication liaison between the student and the teacher to understand an assignment or to complete assignment on time or properly. That's part of my role as well. In order to support teachers, at the beginning of each year, ELD students create a snapshot of who they are. In the past, it has been a document that includes test scores, both the LPAC or CELT scores that they've had, or also some of their common assessment scores that they had in the past. In the spirit of Zoom and Google Meets, I allowed students to create a video this year and email them to all their teachers, just to kind of introduce themselves. Maybe they hadn't done that in person, or they didn't have the confidence to do it in person, but it opens the door for communication where a teacher will know something about the student or can ask a question about the student, just to help bridge that gap of self-advocacy and speaking for yourselves. And I'll actually play one here for you.
Hello, my name is Andres. I am in grade 12. This is my third year at Fallbrook High School. I am original from Guatemala, and I have been living in the United States for 6 years or more. The language that I speak are Canjobal, Spanish, and learning English. My strength as a student are like paying attention in class, participating in class. My areas for improve as a student are to learning English, do homework in class. One specific goal have I for this year is to get a experience about a new things and get a most experience about English. One thing I enjoy doing is I enjoy a good moment with my teachers. In the future, I will like to do to speak very well English. And one thing that you will like to know about me is I am always happy, and every day, every time, wherever, but I am always happy.
So again, this is kind of to open up the door for communication between teacher and student, and also give a little insight who the student are before they, are in their classroom. So this is done This was done the first 2 weeks of school. Each and every ELD 3 and 4 student emailed every teacher a video ranging from a minute to a minute and a half, just with the similar type of information. Part of my role to support teachers is to assist in scaffolding or modeling lessons, our assignments to support English learners. I'm always communicating that I'm willing to help modify assignments or exams or even lessons that would make them more accessible to our language learners. I also offer my services to explain assignments to students that are just falling short or missing something that the teacher is requiring of them. Helping teachers explain or model assignments for the struggling learners is a big role that I have, especially at the 6-week mark where progress reports are coming out. Students' assignments have been popping up that they're missing, and we work together to try to clear those up, and with the teacher as well to understand how to properly address those requirements for each assignment. Corresponding regularly with teachers in regards to struggling students, just checking in and seeing is there a reason why the student is not turning them in, or they not turning them in incorrectly? Can I help you? Can I speak with the student? Would that help? Has been things that have worked in the past for me. Providing or suggesting strategies that would help address the needs of their language learners, depending on the level the student is and who's in their classroom. And coming up and in the past, plan, organize, and co-lead ELD professional learning for our big population of new teachers and any other teachers that have been to the professional development in the past that want to join us as well. And helping with develop and implement the new ELD assessments, which we kind of modeled off of the ELA matrix of essential standards. And also we've identified the most impactful ones that are addressed in the LPAC in order to focus on the ones that would make the biggest difference in raising our students' LPAC scores and hopefully reaching the level of redesignation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very good report.
I do have a little bit more. I would like to share some parent information with you, and I know that our presentation is a bit long, but I want to make sure that I'm comprehensive in giving voice to our students and our parents. This next portion of the presentation is largely parent feedback. And at the previous few board meetings, we've had a lot of parent feedback here at our meetings. And our parent input is critical and is very much so valued as we look at supporting all of our students. Our parents are our partners, and it takes a village to get students to be successful. And we all have the same goal. We want our students to be successful. We want our students to have a good life. So we have parents who are comfortable coming to board meetings and presenting and giving their input. And then we have parents who provide input in a variety of other ways. And so this is a yearly survey that we do for our English language learner parents. And this was done especially because of COVID. It's normally done at an ELAC meeting, and we send it out to parents to complete. When we sent it out to parents, we didn't get anyone filling out the survey. And then when we provided it at an ELAC meeting virtually, nobody filled it out. So we started calling parents individually. And when we called parents individually and began asking questions, they were able to give us some feedback, and that's what you'll see here in some of these questions. The first is, do parents understand the LPAC report? It's a key part of redesignation for our students. And in blue is yes, and in yellow is somewhat, and the combined percentage of parents who understand our LPAC report is 87%. This next piece is the parental exception waiver process. Parents are not required to utilize our EL services. If a parent would like the student to not be in designated ELD or would like to remove the scaffolds and supports of our bilingual paraprofessionals, they have that right. We have had students in the past who've taken this route. So in blue, again, is yes, and yellow is somewhat, for a combined of 85% of our parents who understand the parental exception waiver process. This next part is linguistic interventions and academic programs, and how much parents have knowledge of these programs. And again, we're looking at that blue as yes and the yellow as somewhat, for a combined of 82%. Advanced placement, international baccalaureate, and special education services. How many parents are familiar with these services that we provide? And again, the blue is yes, the yellow is somewhat, and this is combined at 79%. How familiar are parents with the school policies and requirements? Again, we're looking at the blue and yellow, and that would be a combined of 91%. How many parents are familiar with our core curriculum and our requirements for graduation? 72% yes, 18% somewhat, and that's for a combined of 91%. And home to school communication. So this is an entirely separate section of the survey that we send out to parents. So this first question is, how many parents participate in parent-teacher conferences, for a combined total of 76%. And again, that blue is yes, excuse me, and the yellow at 48% is somewhat. Do you attend other parent education opportunities offered at your school? And this is, again, combining the blue and the yellow at 72%. This question is, are you receiving information in a language that you understand? And so combined between the yellow and the blue is 100%, 72% saying yes. The next question is, do they feel welcomed by the school as partners in education? And again, combined between yes and sometimes is 100%, with 63% being yes. And I've actually even consolidated this survey for you. I pulled out only the highlights. I'm almost done, I promise. This next question is safe environment. So percentage of parents, and I apologize because the numbers, the colors switch up on you here. So that red 54% is agree, and then the blue 27% is strongly agree. So the red and the blue together is 81% who feel that we have a safe environment. Do they feel their child is receiving a good education? And again, we're looking at the red and the blue for a combined of 94%, the blue being strongly agree. Now, more specifically, are they receiving enough support in their core classes? Strongly agree in blue at 39% and agree in 45% for a combined of 85%. How do they feel about their progress, their students' progress in reading? So again, we're combining the red and the blue. Blue is strongly agree, and that's 72%. Their progress in writing, 24% being strongly agree, and 48% being agree for a combined of 73%. And in math, progress in math. Again, combining the blue and the red for 73%. And then last but not least, we asked them at the end of the survey, are you willing to come to participate in some committees with us? Because we can always use more parents. We want their input. We did have some parents who said they would like to come to ELAC, some who said coffee with the principal, and I know that our principal, Ms. Lauren Jones, has been working hard to arrange those at times that are more conducive to all of our parents, so she's alternating between a morning and an evening session, and coffee with the counselors, and we're doing the same at Ivy High School, providing dinner with the counselors so that we can capitalize on more of our parents, and we do have about 47 parents tentatively confirmed for coffee with the counselor at Ivy High School tomorrow evening, which is tremendous. Right now, like I said, on Mondays we have mano a mano, and this is where our parent liaison, Mr. Jorge Rojas, is. And in our first session, there were 32 parents, and in our second session, 49 parents, and our third session is running today, again with 49 parents, 13 children, and one student who is assisting in giving community service hours. And that is the end of the information we have for you this evening.
Great report. All right, that brings us to public comments. Anyone wishing to speak that has not submitted a blue card may submit one before public comments end. Blue speaking cards can be found in the lobby and brought to the stage. Please be advised that this agenda item is provided to allow members of the public to make suggestions or identify concerns about matters affecting the district. The Fallbrook Union High School District Board of Education encourages and invites the public to comment on agenda or non-agenda items. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Total public input on any one subject will be limited to 20 minutes and may be extended at the discretion of the board president. Comments on non-agenda items will be heard at this time. Comments on an agenda item may be taken at this time or when the agenda item is discussed by the board. Speakers will be called in order by topic and when card was submitted. The district silence should not be mistaken for agreement with public comments. Rather, the board remains silent to comply with California law, avoid legal entanglements, and or to protect the privacy of those involved. Please be assured any serious allegations have been or will be investigated thoroughly. Any responses from the board will occur during board member comments. So tonight we have 3 people coming to us. The first person is Danielle Kendall, and her topic is possible vaccine mandates.
Hello and good evening. My name is Danielle Kendall and I am a parent of a sophomore student here at Fallbrook High School. My husband is a 1993 graduate and we are second generation warrior family. Today I wanted to voice my concern about the possible COVID-19 vaccine mandates for our children between the ages of 12 and 17. Tomorrow, the San Diego Unified School District will be voting on this mandate for their own district. Today I have come here as a concerned parent that with Los Angeles Unified District already having passed a COVID-19 vaccine mandate, and with the San Diego now voting on it, that we might be dealing with the same mandate in our district in the near future. I strongly oppose COVID-19 vaccine mandate, and I oppose it for our district. Currently stated in San Diego Gov website, we have 760,000 adolescents aged 12 to 17 in our county. From February 14th, 2021 to February 26th, 2021, we had 476 cases in that group. That's 0.00062% of our children with 0 deaths. There's also an article written in the National Library of Medicine that states, coronavirus disease 2019 is more benign in children compared with adults for unknown reasons. This contrasts with our respiratory viruses where disease manifestations are often more severe in children. We hypothesize that a more robust early innate immune response to SARS coronavirus protects against severe disease. My own children have had COVID-19, recovered with minimal symptoms, and now have natural immunity and antibodies to the coronavirus. We also know that people vaccinated can still carry the virus. As a parent, I need long-term studies done to make sure to educate myself about the decision of COVID-19 vaccine. Currently, we do not have that information available because the vaccine is so new. Lastly, the California State Code 120335 states that there are 10 vaccines necessary for our children to attend in-person education, with the allowance for medical exemptions when necessary. The COVID-19 vaccine is not listed as one of those necessary for in-person education at this time. Feasible options for students who do not want the vaccine could be periodic testing. I want to thank the board for your time. I appreciate it. I know these get long. And I want you to consider that the medical and personal health responsibility of our children should be decided by the parents. Thank you again.
Thank you. We got it now? What are we gonna do? We got it back up. Back up? Okay, it's back up over here. All right. Sorry about the timing device. We've been struggling with that. The next person is Jennifer Neese, and she has the same topic for vaccine mandates.
Good evening. Hello, thank you for serving here at Fallbrook Union High School District. My name is JJ Neese. I have a son who is a sophomore here, and being a mother of 6, there will likely be more coming through the trenches as warriors in this decade. I know that school districts right now have been investigating whether or not to mandate vaccines for all eligible students. I want to strongly encourage this board that if that happens, there will be a lot of devastation to our community and school district. It broke my heart to hear of the staff members who passed away, as mentioned earlier in this session. As my late husband taught for 17 years as a high school EMT instructor and Health Careers Academy director at Palmdale High School before dying in a tragic accident. Teachers and staff are critical to a thriving school, as are the students. These students here have already been robbed of so much over the last 18 months, and if a vaccine mandate is voted on and passed, they will be robbed of so much more. Fallbrook Union High School District will lose a lot of enrollment and thus funding, as some of the drop-in enrollment will be from those parents who do not want their students to have an experimental injection that has no long-term safety studies on it. Some of those will be disenrolled because of chronic health issues that ensue, and statistically, some could be de-enrolled because they are no longer living. According to the Medicare tracking system, information that was released on September 25th, 2021, there were 48,465 deaths of American citizens who died within 14 days of receiving the vaccine. For context, the 1976 swine flu vaccine was halted when a mere 25 people died from reactions following vaccination. For us to rush to insist that any staff member as well as students without medical exemptions or IEPs receive this injection when it has already killed tens of thousands is not just irresponsible, but actually criminal and illegal. I have one son at another school who had a vaccine reaction as a 1-year-old causing encephalitis, a swelling of the brain. And this was following a routine shot. He has had an IEP now for 6 years, and I would not wish to add to the huge load that the fabulous special education teachers already have to carry. In closing, please remember that the COVID vaccine never claimed to reduce transmission of the virus. Our family was actually given COVID by a vaccinated person, and I'm thankful for that. It reminds me of the chickenpox party I had for my kids, so they would have long-term immunity when they were little. Now we are protected for a while, and I'm grateful for that, frankly. But the only claim that the vaccine made was to reduce symptoms and complications. So if we are to take that seriously, we need to view this as a personal choice of whether we want to take that risk or not. This isn't about being proactive or anti-vax. It's about having bodily autonomy. If we lose that, it will be the beginning of losing many human rights. You are decent human beings in a position to do the right thing. We are praying that you will. Thank you for considering this.
Thank you. Our next person is Sherry Weishar, concerning clubs, class funding. And come on up.
Hello again. I'm Sherry Weishar. As I've said before, I've lived in Fallbrook for almost 26 years, and my 2 youngest children are both attending Fallbrook High School. I was a little pleased at the last board meeting when I heard that Ms. Garza Gonzalez had been covering classes. I know that the school is extremely short-staffed. The vice principal, Mr. Martinez, is also extremely stretched thin, covering classes and making sure that our students have what they need. And the counseling department is woefully overworked in trying to meet the needs of our students. I'm actually quite pleased that I'm able to see my youngest counselor tomorrow and make sure he's on the right track for college. It is exhausting having to work that much, I know, because whenever you leave your desk, the pile doesn't get smaller, it always gets bigger. So thank you. But I was happy to hear that you're getting back into the classroom and seeing what our students are dealing with. Having such a large age gap between my youngest and my oldest, I can tell you that the school has changed immensely in those 11 years. And the needs of our students, even pre-pandemic, were incredibly different. The school had Club Rush on September 10th. It was really exciting for my kids to have the opportunity to get back to doing things that were not academic, socially with their friends, anything. And my youngest was able to find a club that he was really excited about, went back in, saw kids his own age, met new friends, had a wonderful time, and generally came home from school with a smile on his face for the first time in a year and a half. A week later, he was told that the club had been defunded and they would not be meeting. My oldest is taking yearbook this year, also a new opportunity for him to be able to get out of his shell and get a little more excited about school. And the yearbook teacher had to actually post a fundraiser for cameras so the students could take the pictures and put out a yearbook. She sent that through the Aries communication portal to the parents, and I took that link and posted it on Facebook so that her program could be fully funded, and she now will get those cameras that she needs. It's just shocking to me that money isn't being spent on our kids. Programs are being offered and then taken away. Opportunities are being given and then taken back. And I hope that you will all take a moment to reevaluate what money is really being spent on. Okay? Thank you.
All right, moving on to our student board representative. Can you please tell us what's going on?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Savannah Hometh, and I will be representing both Oasis and Ivy High School. Over the next 2 weeks, Ivy and Oasis will be preparing for the PSAT. During the day of the PSAT, Ivy students will be taking a food handlers class and an OSHA class. Ivy's soccer team will also begin playing in a couple weeks. Typically, students will join teams at Fallbrook High School, so it is so exciting that Ivy will be forming their own teams. Both Oasis and Ivy High School students will be able to attend the homecoming dance on October 9th. In place of Mr. Damon, I will be reading his report. Hello, board members. My deepest apologies for being unable to be here today. However, I still would like to inform you about some of the current events going on at Fallbrook High School. Currently, we are still preparing for our Electric 80s homecoming to occur on October 9th, 2021. Tickets can be purchased for the next 2 weeks in the ASB room for $35 with an ASB card and $40 without. Students can buy tickets at the door for $50 with the ASB card and $60 without. We will be announcing the homecoming court this Friday and crowning the king and queen on October 8th at the homecoming football game halftime show. Our choral department is also planning to have a speakeasy style concert in which we will be performing jazz and solos. This concert will be this Thursday at 7 p.m. All tickets will be free, as this will be many of our students for the first time in 2 years. Senior portraits will be resuming on October 11th, October 12th, October 15th, October 18th, October 19th, 2021. You can make an appointment by going on to prestigeportraits.com and searching by school for Fallbrook High School. Thank you.
Savannah, when did you say the performance was going to be Thursday?
The concert for performing jazz and solos.
Thursday?
Thursday at 7 p.m.
Here?
Yes. Sorry, I don't.
Okay,
Sure.
probably here. Okay, it's 7
Probably.
o'clock.
At 7 o'clock.
And so anybody can come?
Sorry?
Can anybody come?
Yes, all tickets will be free, so.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
guessing yes.
That's nice. All right, thank you. And so now the board members can give a report. We'll start out with Mr. Carlumpio.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all the parents and to all the presenters today who have spoken. Definitely a lot of great things are happening here at Fallbrook, and I'm thankful for the work that Mr. Virgilio Mayo, Ms. Toon, and Mr. Muro are doing and are going to do. You know, seeing the information, the data, seeing that a lot of students are coming from, we have a lot of incoming freshmen that are ELs, and then seeing that number reduce by the time they're seniors is really, really satisfying. It's just an example of rigorous, direct, explicit instruction from our teachers with the support of amazing, you know, staff, and it was really great to see that. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very happy with, you know, just that students are in class, students are learning, and that we're doing our best to, you know, get them going on the right path. Thank you.
Okay, and that brings us to Ms. Sterling.
Nothing to report at this time.
No? Okay. I'd like to pretty much say what Mr. Carlampio said, but I mean, all these reports tonight were so heart-filled and just been great. There's so much hard work in between the lines. You know, there's one thing that we know kids are going to class and they're taking tests and they're going to activities, but it's those small little things that make a kid, you know, like have lunch with somebody that can help them. All those little things really matter. And all you do not put in 8 hours. You're all putting in 10, 12 hours a day or more. And right, and it's very appreciated and noticed by everybody here on the board. And well, at least I like to say that, and it's very appreciated and noticed. You know, thank you. And then we have Ms. Tabish. Yeah, do you going to say something about the reunion, the reunion for the teachers and the students? There was something in the. I'm sorry. I meant to say something about, maybe you can mention it. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I just briefly wanted to talk a little bit about child development. Past years ago, in about 2017, the child development program from our high school was cut by the past administration. I am a very strong proponent of bringing back that program and that pathway because I think it is very, very good for kids. Also, the program will assist with the CTE balancing of the gender-based programs. And also, I just found out that in the year 2024, the state of California will begin to mandate to bring pre-K programs to all of the school districts throughout the state. That means 3- and 4-year-olds will be having free preschool provided, and so that is going to mean that there's going to be a huge demand for early childhood education teachers. If we start implementing a program here, again, we can have our students into viable, good-paying, wonderful jobs within a few years. Both the ECE program that the teachers would be qualified for are certification programs. They're not a 4-year degree of teaching certificate, so they would be able to go from our high school program into either Palomar College or Mira Costa and get their certificate and fill some of these wonderful jobs that are going to be available throughout the state. I do feel that in the past we have had a program that was articulated with Palomar and Mira Costa, and I think that would be a really good thing for our school district to bring that back. It's a wonderful program, and I'm just going to try and work as hard as I can to get that going. Anyway, that's my little thing, because I've read about the 2024. Also, San Diego Unified School District went ahead and jumped the gun ahead of the 2024, and they are bringing in their pre-K program starting this next year. Thank you.
Thank you, and I really support what Ms. Tavish says. I was a child development teacher myself. No, what I was meaning is that at the park, at Live Oak Park, they're going to have, you know about that. That's what I meant to say. So do you know more about it?
Okay, the celebration that happened this summer, the 101-year celebration, yeah, that took place kind of amidst the pandemic. It wasn't as well attended as it should have been. I mean, there were hundreds of people that showed up, but we were expecting way more. But the pandemic kind of squished that a little bit. But it was really fun. There were lots of events for children. There were trail walks, and there were plant identification. They had some wildlife there, too. The different birds of prey came in. It was really nice.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to our superintendent's report. Thank you very much, everybody, so far.
Yes, a couple of board meetings ago, the board asked that I present on the state seal of civic engagement. So I have that ready. To provide a little bit of background, in 2017, then Governor Jerry Brown signed Assembly Bill 24 into law, which required the state superintendent of public instruction to recommend criteria for awarding a state seal of civic engagement to students. The seal would go on the students' transcripts, diplomas, or certificates of completion, just as the state seal of biliteracy goes on those documents. And on September 10, 2020, the State Board of Education adopted criteria and guidance toward a state seal of civic engagement. Obviously, with COVID, implementing the program at different school sites was stalled. And when I did visit the California Department of Ed website today to see the list of schools that are actually awarding the state seal of civic engagement, it stated that the information had been taken down. So the criteria that the state has provided is meant to be a framework for school boards or school districts making determinations of student qualifications required to earn the state seal of civic engagement. The criteria is a means to ensure that no student is excluded from an opportunity to earn the seal based on academic ability, alternative school settings, or unique or unconventional expressions of civic engagement. And the 5 criteria are there. I will review each one of them and the suggestions from the state. The first one is to be engaged in academic work in a productive way. And the implementation guidance is that LEAs look at students that are enrolled in or on track to graduate can earn a certificate of completion using the district or state requirements for the state seal of civic engagement. They must demonstrate academic improvement, build constructive relationships within the school community, and we should also consider students that have IEPs and specify the levels needed for those students to be able to obtain a certificate of completion or a diploma. The second criteria is to demonstrate a competent understanding of U.S. and California constitutions, functions and governance of local governments, tribal government structures and organizations, the role of the citizen in a constitutional democracy, and democratic principles, concepts, and processes. Again, implementation guidance is that LEAs consider whether students must complete grade level history, social science courses or their equivalent in world history, which is offered in 10th grade, U.S. history in 11th grade, and American government and civics and econ, offered in the senior year, all with a passing grade. Look at interdisciplinary coursework that can include civics and aspects of government, law, history, geography, culture, ethnic studies, international governments, economics, and current events. Determine through Board of Education policy the definition of a passing grade, and choose to measure fulfillment of the history and social science course requirements with a district-specific content benchmark or civic assessment, as well as encourage student participation in local meetings and encourage the integration of experiential learning opportunities into these courses. Third criteria is for students to participate in one or more informed civic engagement project that address real-world problems and require students to identify and inquire into civic needs or problems, consider varied responses, take action, and reflect on efforts. And the guidelines for civic engagement are outlined. Boards should consider that when taking informed action, students may be encouraged to choose and define problems in their own communities, investigate root causes and possible solutions, develop and implement plans to address those problems, and reflect on their actions to help them develop identities as citizens with rights and responsibilities. I know that the request for the information I'm presenting tonight came about as part of a discussion of our community service graduation requirement, and the last bullet there states that volunteering may be considered as an act of civic engagement. However, volunteering alone does not constitute a project to address a real-world problem. The fourth criteria is to demonstrate civic knowledge, skills, and dispositions through self-reflection, And again, the options for student self-reflection include how the student engaged with individuals, groups, and/or organizations to advance a common good or a democratic ideal, such as equity and justice, what the student learned and how the student has personally grown through the civic engagement activity, the extent to which the efforts had their desired impact, how the student was involved in the project over an extended period of time. And that self-reflection can be submitted as a written document, an oral document, digital, audio, video, multimedia. Again, all of this being reflected in the board policy. And LEAs can consider an annual or bi-yearly civics showcase event for students to have a platform to present the civics engagement work to meet this criteria. Criteria number 5 is for students to exhibit character traits that reflect civic mindedness and a commitment to positively impact the classroom, school, community, and/or society. And again, a definition from the state of what civic mindedness could mean. And let me go back. So, evidence of observed character traits that reflect civic mindedness and a commitment to supporting the school community and/or society, as well as evidence of ongoing civic engagement. And these, again, can be submitted or supported through recommendations, videos, audio clips, and/or digital presentations. There should be special considerations to accessibility, the depth, and interdisciplinary work. And for us, the greatest considerations are accessibility and the interdisciplinary, as we are a high school district, so we really could not develop a project that started in the earlier grades. So the next steps would be, in order for a student to earn the state seal of civic engagement, they must meet the 5 state criteria adopted by the state. So the school district would need to determine if we wanted to adopt the statewide criteria or develop criteria specific to our local context. An example is that when the state seal of biliteracy, when the criteria for that was released, we had the same option. And I believe that we decided to stay with the statewide criteria in awarding the state seal of biliteracy. Second is to secure adoption of the criteria by the local governing board through a resolution, develop a process by which students can fulfill the criteria, and then request and distribute the seals from the state for students each spring. Obviously, it is a process that I don't think could be completed and give students the opportunity for fulfillment by the 2022 graduation. Any questions on the state seal of civic engagement? There is going to be a dashboard that the state will put together to show how many seals were requested by each school district, by each school site, and how many were awarded. At this time, it is not part of any assessment by the state to appear on the dashboard. So again, that is discussion by the board on what next steps might be in order to award the state seal of civic engagement. I do not have any information that shows if students coming from schools that don't offer the seal will be at a disadvantage to those coming from schools that do place the seal on the transcript and the diplomas when it comes to college acceptance.
Very interesting whole process there. Yeah. Okay. That brings us to our agenda items. And our first one is an information item, trustee area redistricting. So, with the release of the data of the 2020 census, there is a need to examine and potentially redraw the trustee areas based on population changes. This is an information item. Yeah, press the button down below, probably. Oh, you got help coming.
Sorry. Okay. All right. There we go. Good evening, everyone. My name is Janet Mueller. I'm from the firm of Dennis Oliver Kelly. Attending my first board meeting here at your district tonight, but I'm pleased to tell you I've learned so much about you just from the meeting tonight and all the earlier reports. So this is a very different topic. Let's see, is this going to advance slides for me?
I believe your presentation is being loaded, am I correct? Or is, we're having technical difficulties.
Okay.
So how long have we been doing the redistricting so that people out there know?
Sure. Well, you all only went from at-large, I think, to trustee area elections in 2019. So that should be rather fresh in your mind, and actually was a much more extensive process than what you will have to be confronting now. Your first trustee elections under the new system, I believe, were in November of 2020. And so haven't been at it very long, but when every 10 years, when the census data comes out, that triggers an education code requirement. Not that you start over, but that you look at population growth in particular and shifts within your district and make any adjustments that may be needed. And it's possible that no adjustments will be needed at all. But you're probably hearing a lot about redistricting. Other agencies in the county, in the city, in the state, local special districts are also contemplating similar types of procedures.
So I'm assuming you wanted to show us the map.
I was going to show you the map, but only to illustrate your trustee areas because nothing is changing tonight, and I won't even be the person who will do the work on mapping changes.
We have them here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we can go.
So we do
I can
have
go
the
ahead.
presentation, it's just being uploaded, I believe.
Okay.
All right. But we do have them.
Okay.
So the presentation is attached to the agenda, but we can move forward. The board members do
All
have
right,
it until
I'm
they
happy
figure
to
it
go
out.
ahead without the visual, if you've all got copies there. So on the very first slide is just a very small rendering of your map. And again, just to help you recall, you moved to this process in 2019 under the California Voting Rights Act. You had your first board member elections under the new system in November of 2020. And just to be clear, at-large elections is what you had before. That's where all board members are voted in by all registered voters in the district versus trustee areas where each trustee comes from a particular, resides in and is only voted in by the registered voters of that area. So next slide, slide 3. So we know that when census data comes out every 10 years, that triggers us to review our trustee areas. The census data unfortunately came out very late this year, and that is actually putting a bit of a squeeze on the process, not to mention that hundreds of other school districts in California are doing the same thing in the very same compressed time period. Basically, the Ed Code 5019.5 says that once we've got new trustee area or new census data, we need to re-examine those areas to decide if any changes are needed. And it's basically to ensure that you have population balance in terms of the numbers of people who are in each trustee area. And if you do need to make revisions to your maps, they have to be made by March 1st of 2022. And it may seem like that's sufficient time, but given the compression of districts all going through this process, it doesn't give us very much time to maneuver. Moving on to slide 4. So what do we mean by population balance? We do have to have roughly equal population between our trustee areas, and generally under federal law, which is the standard we're borrowing from, that means that the difference between the least populated area to the most can't be more than 10% difference. So on the slide, although it might be a little bit difficult for you to read, there's a little bit of an extraction of the data that pertains to your district. And you'll see, for example, the trustee areas are never identical. Oh, there we go. Can I advance from my clicker? Yeah, I think we're on the population balance slide 4. Slide 4, right? Yeah, right above. One backwards. Yep, right there. So we were talking about that 10% variation. So you can kind of see on that data that the variance from your smallest trustee area to your biggest trustee area, and the smallest being trustee area 4 and the largest being trustee area 3, is 5.62%. So it's well within that 10% variance. But when you did this conversion, you may have been looking at 2010 census data, so now it's 10 years later, and we'll be looking at the same data again based on 2020 numbers. And we just want to make sure that, again, that difference between the smallest to the biggest is not more than 10%. And so who will do that for you but a demographer who has experience in establishing trustee areas and interpreting this kind of data. Went backwards. So what does this process look like? Well, the board actually will determine the process, unlike the process that you use to move from at-large elections to trustee area elections. There are no mandatory public hearings. The County Committee on School District Organization is not involved in this process or have any kind of control over the approval of it, other than that you will notify them when you have completed this process. The State Board of Education doesn't need to waive anything or approve anything. You may, as I mentioned, redistricting is going on among all different government agencies in California, actually in the country. Something called the Fair Maps Act does not govern what you do. School districts have their own process. So in case you got your ear to the ground and you're hearing what the county or some other agency is doing and all kinds of hearings happening, those processes don't apply to you. That doesn't mean that you can't layer on hearings or additional meetings if you want to, but there's actually no mandatory public process other than if you're presented with a new map or some new information, and you'll have to take an action to approve a new map, but no additional hearings or noticed special proceedings of any kind. And then finally, actually we've only got 2 more slides. So we think of this as sort of a 2-phase approach. Phase 1 of the work is to evaluate the areas and look at the data. Decide if an adjustment is needed. It is quite possible no adjustments are needed, and then we will just leave the maps as they are. If no adjustment is needed, we'll make a recommendation that you adopt a resolution, basically going and telling the public and the County Committee on School District Organization that you looked at it and made a decision that no adjustments were needed. But if you do need to make any adjustments, the goal will be to develop and adopt any revised map by no later than March 1, which basically means by the end of February. And that may take a meeting or 2 depending on whether there are multiple options or things that you want to take a closer look at. So in terms of a next steps and potential schedule, so we're doing this presentation tonight to sort of acclimate everyone to what's coming. I understand that a demographer has been selected and a contract will come forward to you in October to get under contract for that work with the demographer. Anticipating that in November-ish, the demographer will present an initial analysis to you all. If no changes are needed, again, as I mentioned, you'd adopt a resolution to that effect. However, if some change is recommended, December, January timeframe, the demographer will present some map options. As I mentioned, it could be one meeting, it could be two meetings, with the goal that by no later than the end of February, we'll approve a new trustee area map if those changes are needed. So I know I went through that pretty quickly, but those are all my formal comments. I will be happy to take any questions.
This is so much easier than the first round of this.
Yes, it
Yeah.
should be. Hopefully it will be.
And since we didn't have a lot of new incoming population, we'll be pretty close, I think.
Mhm.
But this is a good outline for us.
Okay.
Much easier than what we went through in the beginning.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay, board. It's down to us and a couple watchers here. We have action item number 2, memorandum of understanding, and I need a motion, please.
I move that the board approve the MOU between FUHSD, FHSTA, and SEIU for the purpose of opening the workability position to classified employees for the 2021-2022 school year only, as presented.
I second.
Okay, so that was Caralampio, and I'm going to go with Tabish. We both said it at the same time, but there we go. And then that brings us to a vote. Okay. Ms. Helmuth, you're still here. Good for you. Hello? You're going to vote first on this one. Okay? Go ahead. Just say aye or no. Mm-hmm.
I move that the board approve the MOU between FUHSD and FHSTA for the purpose of revising period class coverages for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
Thank you. Mr. Caralampio?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Sterling? Aye. Thank you. Ms. Summers says aye. Ms. Tabish? Aye. Thank you. So action item number 2 passes 4-0. And then that brings us to action item number 3, elementary and secondary school emergency relief, ESSER. The number, 3, expenditure plan. May I have a motion, please?
Madam President, we're actually on action item number 3 under Superintendent Human Resources on page 4 at the bottom.
Okay, so we don't have the number 3 that's on this paper? I don't have the right one then. Okay. That was taken off? I didn't know. I only have 3, so what are we talking about? This is what I have.
You have the draft.
I know, but you.
We need the actual agenda.
Okay. You want to, I'll just read it.
You have copies.
Not up here. Okay, sorry about that. Memorandum of understanding between, okay, this is another memorandum. Sorry, I was using the wrong paper. Memorandum of understanding between Fallbrook Union High School School District, FUHSD, and Fallbrook High School Teachers Association, FHSTA. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the board approve the MOU between FUHSD and FHSTA for the purpose of revising period class coverages for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
I second.
Okay, so that was Tavish and Sterling for the first and second. May I, do you have any questions or concerns, anybody? We're all good? Okay, so that brings us to Ms. Hellmuth.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Sterling?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Summers says aye. Ms. Tavish?
Aye.
Action item number 3 passes 4-0. All right. So. All right. All right, I'm on target now. So action item number 4, elementary and secondary school emergency relief, ESSER, the third expenditure plan. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the board approve the elementary and secondary school emergency relief ESSER 3 expenditure plan as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a first and second, Carlampio and Tavish. Do we have any questions or concerns? Okay, so that brings us Ms. Helmuth. How do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Sterling?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Summers says aye. Ms. Tavish?
Aye.
All right, so action item number 4, that would be, passes 4-0. All right, that brings us to action item number 5, which is consent agenda. Am I on target? Okay, sorry about the error there. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Trustees to be routine and will be enacted by one action. There's usually no discussion of these items prior to the time of the Board of Trustees votes on the motion unless members of the board request specific items to be discussed or deleted from the consent agenda. So, is there any additions or subtractions? Everybody good? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion.
I move that the board approve as presented the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, that's Carlampio and Tavish, and that brings us, if there's no concerns, to call for the vote. Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Sterling.
Aye.
Ms. Summers says aye. Ms. Tavish.
Aye.
All right. So the consent agenda passes 4-0. That brings us to the final parts, which is our organizational matters. This is the appropriate place in the agenda for members of the board to request the superintendent provide further information regarding items to discuss at this meeting and or to request that new items of business be placed on future agendas. All right, nobody has anything tonight.
I would
you got
like
one.
to.
Okay.
I would like to have us look into what we would need to do to accept the seal of civic involvement as a possible route for our school to have, as one of the possibilities.
Okay. So that's called the seal of involvement. Pretty much civic civic involvement. Civic what? Engagement.
Civic
I'm
engagement.
sorry. That's right. Civic engagement. All right. So that should be in the notes, a civic engagement. Okay. And that's according to our presentation tonight. Anybody else have anything? No? All right, so we're going to go ahead and declare that the next regular meeting, the Board of Trustees, will be held Monday, October 11th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. in the Bob Burton Performing Arts Center at Fallbrook High School. There being no further business to come before the board, the regular meeting of September 27th, 2021 was adjourned at 7:55 by Diane Summers, the board president.